Hello, and welcome back to the tennis vlog for the first time in a few days. It is quarterfinals time at the US Open, which means time to preview and predict. Now, for those who are here live, I'm sorry I'm not quite on time. I was pushing this back. Not feeling 100% today. I'm not quite sure why, but this is like the only element of continuity on the channel at the moment, so I need to stay committed to making it happen. I'm on the radio in just over an hour, so I need to keep this one to an hour, which is good news for all of us. So actually going to whistle through this a bit more quickly than I usually would. And yeah, I'm sure everyone would prefer it that way. Thank you very much. And yeah, let's get started with the quarterfinals that are to be played today. So we've got 4 today, which is Tuesday, I think we're on Tuesday, and 4 tomorrow. So we'll be starting shortly with the first of the quarterfinals, which is number 5 seed Alina Svitolina of Ukraine against Great Britain's Johanna Konta, seeded number 16. And we'll just take a quick look at how both players have got to this stage of the competition. So Svitolina played Whitney Osigwe, a young American teen, in the first round, didn't have too many issues, 6-1, 7-5. Then she had the match against Venus Williams, which is the one I think really got her going. She won that one also in straight sets, 6-4, 6-4. She's actually yet to drop a set. She's been steamrolling through, really, almost under the radar, I think, Svitolina. I've not paid too much attention to her since the Venus Williams win, but it definitely seems to have put the fire under her feet. Venus, at times in that match, really raised her level and was quite consistent in the longer rallies and forcing Svitolina to be consistent. There were some really demanding exchanges in there, but the thing I found with that match was that Venus brought her best, most consistent level when she was down on the scoreboard, and Svitolina really peaked for those big moments. So she won that one 6-4, 6-4, and really hasn't had much trouble since then. Diana Yastremska, her countrywoman, could have been an issue in the third round, but Svitolina all round just showed her greater maturity, her ability to mix things up a bit more than Yastremska. She was really pulling her around the court, and she won that one pretty comprehensively, 6-2, 6-love. And then her most recent victory was over her highest seeded opponent yet, Madison Keys, the number 10 seed. Keys had been looking decent, but Svitolina able to win 7-5, 6-4. So looking across at Konta, and the path hasn't been quite as smooth. She's dropped a couple of sets, but she's also beaten the highest seeded player of either her or Svitolina, which was Karolina Pliskova in the last round, but we'll come to that one shortly. Daria Kasatkina was her first round victim. A really good match, I felt, for Konta to come through early on, because Kasatkina, former top 10, former Indian Wells finalist, and able to do a lot of different things on the court. She's not an all-out power player. She slices, she drops shots, she gives you lots of different looks at the ball, and that had the potential to be a very frustrating matchup in the first round, with Konta not having had much practice, but she came through in 3, 6-1, 4-6, 6-2. So I think for both Konta and Svitolina, it was good to have testing matchups early in the tournament to get them going. Seemed to work for Konta, 6-1, 6-love. She thrashed Margarita Gasparian, who's tricky, hasn't been playing much recently, but has a great one-handed backhand, comes to the net, and had the potential to trouble, but Konta kept her on the back foot there. Zhang Shui, I always get these Chinese names wrong, shame on me. Zhang Shui, 6-2, 6-3. Konta was the winner. Zhang's really stepped it up recently and been playing with a lot more confidence at the Grand Slams, so another good win for Konta. And then the big one over Pliskova, 6-7, 6-3, 7-5 for Konta. Those of you who've seen me talk about Pliskova before will know that I don't really think she's going to win a slam at this point. She had her moment, her opportunity, really in the US Open in 2016 when she made the final. But if you look at the way she was playing at that 2016 US Open, same conditions as now. She beat Serena and Venus Williams to make the final. She was slick, aggressive, and that kind of game style is really tough on this surface. So for Konta to find a way past that and deal with the serves and the net play and come through the way she did with a tight final set is quite a confidence boost for her. At the beginning of this tournament, I did expect Konta to go deep because she's gone deep at the last two slams. Quarterfinals at Wimbledon and semi-finals at the French Open. On both occasions, she lost to a non-seeder and she got some stick for that, particularly from the British press. But I personally thought she handled those losses really well. She took the positives. She refused to be negative, really. And some people can look at that as kind of being quite tunnel visioned and not really seeing the things she needs to work on. People forget, though, that, when Konta broke out in 2015 with her first really notable run coming at the US Open, the biggest change for her was her mentality and a more positive and a more confident approach to the game, which I think she's been hanging on to this season. So, I was not surprised by Konta's win over Pliskova, and the confident way in which she's playing and the way she's developed her game to give herself more options outside of plan A. So she can drop shots, she can move around the court, she can come to the net. There's a lot going on in Konta's game at the moment, and that makes her clash with Svitolina really quite unpredictable. This is the one of all the quarterfinals that's the one I'm going back and forth on, because really I can see either of them coming out on top. It would be strange to me to see Svitolina suddenly reach back-to-back semis after this time she's had of struggling at the slams. But at the same time, she has really stepped it up, and I've been impressed with her intensity and her focus during this event. So this one's really, really tough to call. And I figure I say that probably quite a lot about a lot of clashes, but these two even hit the ball in a similar way. They have a similar game style. And, if Konta's feeling it, I can see her getting the upset win. It's hard to see what my gut is saying on this one, and usually my gut instinct turns out to be pretty accurate most of the time, and I can't even tell what it is on this one. I think initially it might be Svitolina, but I don't think I've watched enough of Konta play this tournament really to gauge where she's at. I've watched her a lot previously in the season. It's a difficult one. I want to give Konta the benefit of the doubt here, just because at some stage somewhere there has to be an upset, and I think it might come here. So let's have a look at the head-to-head. That might give us a hand. Konta actually trails 4-love. I did see this earlier. And when you're down that far in a head-to-head, you need to dig in quickly and stop the momentum of the opposing player, because otherwise they really have your number. And if Svitolina were to get the win here, that would be massive for her in terms of just having a stranglehold on this rivalry. The most recent meeting came in 2018 at the premier event in Canada. Svitolina winning in straights. Konta retired in Brisbane in the third set of their meeting that same year. They played at the WTA Elite Trophy, which is the step down from the WTA finals, in the semis in 2016, and Svitolina won that one. Then way back in 2013, but that one's kind of irrelevant because Konta hadn't broken out before then. So you can see, even though Svitolina has won every meeting, there have been some close matches, and Svitolina is a different player to Pliskova. I'd say she's going to be more consistent. But if Konta's going to make a move here, it has to be in this match, I think. So I'm on a time limit, so I have to make a pick. I'm feeling like my gut is Svitolina now. So, yeah, okay. The times I've ignored my gut, I've regretted it. My head is saying that Konta here needs to break through and has the weapons too, but Svitolina has looked really focused this tournament, so I'll go with my gut and give her the benefit of the doubt. So Svitolina to win this in 3 sets, and I know it sounded like I was going to pick Konta there. That's because I was, but listening to my gut on this one. Okay, moving on. Stan Wawrinka versus Daniel Medvedev. This one should be good. Wawrinka obviously took out Djokovic, but it was via retirement in the 4th round. Interesting, at the beginning of the tournament, I'd have been surprised not to see Djokovic in this quarterfinal lineup, but with the injury, having been there and having a bit of an effect from the first round, it's really not that surprising. Wawrinka had a bit of an iffy start to the tournament, was taken to 4 sets by the teenager from Italy, Yannick Sinner, won that one 6-3, 7-6, 4-6, 6-3. Then another 4-setter against Jeremy Chardy, very experienced Chardy, but not in terrific form these days. Wawrinka winning in 4 again, 6-4, 6-3, 6-7, 6-3. Paolo Lorenzi, he's had a couple of matches now against Italians. Lorenzi, again, another veteran, and Wawrinka again pushed close, even though it was straight sets, 6-4, 7-6, 7-6. And then there was the match with Djokovic. Wawrinka was so up for that, came out striking strong, and the thing with Wawrinka against these big guys is even when Wawrinka's not been in tremendous form, he has the confidence in the previous wins against these guys to give himself ample chances. So the thing with Djokovic retiring in the 3rd set there, if you've heard me on the radio, you'll have heard me say this, he retired at 2 sets and a breakdown. If it had been another player not playing as well as Wawrinka, Djokovic might have stuck it out a bit longer, but he knows at that position against Wawrinka, who's zoning, who's unleashing his ground strokes, the forehand, the backhand, who's pulling Djokovic around the court, he knows he's not going to win that match. So he had to cut it short to avoid doing any further damage to his shoulder, I guess. And that's a positive boost for Wawrinka. He is obviously treating it like an outright win. And it is for him in his mind, because he knew after going up by that lead that the chances of him losing that match were very slim. So that's pretty much as confidence boosting as an outright win for Wawrinka. I think even if Djokovic was 100% fit, with Wawrinka finding his peak form, it's very difficult in these conditions for even the top players to deal with him. The thing with Wawrinka that's kept him away from these guys is the fact he's been streaky. So that's a boost for Wawrinka, and the question is whether he can actually continue that momentum against a player who's won their only previous Grand Slam meeting. Medvedev beat Wawrinka in the Wimbledon first round in 2017 in 4 sets. So Medvedev was a little more unknown there, caught Wawrinka off guard maybe a bit in the first round, so perhaps deeper into the tournament, with Medvedev having played 3 straight 4-setters, which I'll come to now, things might be a bit different. But let's take a closer look. Medvedev won his first round in straight sets, then had it a bit tougher against Hugo Dellien, who is starting to come through a bit this season. He's got a solid serve, comes forward, and Medvedev able to come through 6-3, 7-5, 5-7, 6-3. Feliciano Lopez in the first round. You never quite know what you're getting from Lopez away from grass courts. But obviously likes to serve and volley when he can and use the backhand slice and crack down on the forehand. Medvedev handled that, but there were some close sets. 7-6, 4-6, 7-6, 6-4. That 3rd set tie-break was won 9-7 by Medvedev, and in a best of 5 set match, it doesn't really get more crucial than a 3rd set tie-break. So for him to win it by that slim of a margin shows something about where his mentality is at in the big moments. And then another 4-set win in the 4th round, 3-6, 6-3, 6-2, 7-6. I mean, his opponent there was quality, but it's probably one that Medvedev should have won a bit more easily. He is the number 5 seed after all. So it's interesting really to consider. The thing that Medvedev, everyone will know, has got headlines for this fortnight more than his tennis is the way he's riled up the crowd and kind of thrived on the booing atmosphere. He's been trolling them in the on-court interviews afterwards, praising them for their pretty rude reception and saying that they've actually helped him, which I don't think he's fully just playing about with. You know, you can take that situation and use it to fire you up and channel it into your game. So if that keeps happening, you know, that might actually be a really positive thing for Medvedev. But let's have a look at the full head-to-head. They have only played the one time at a Grand Slam on fast courts, and Medvedev won that, obviously, the 4-setter, 6-4, 3-6, 6-4, 6-1. Was a bit of controversy in that match. The thing for me here is that Medvedev did catch Wawrinka cold in that match, and Wawrinka hadn't really had the chance to get going. Now, here we have a tournament that Wawrinka's won before. This is his best Grand Slam in a while. He's been struggling with injuries, he's been struggling for form, and when Wawrinka reaches this point of a major, unless he... Well, no, full stop. When Wawrinka reaches this point of a major, he's very difficult to handle because he's warmed up. He's got confidence, he's got going, and it takes the very best to take him out. Does Medvedev have the energy for that is a question, because he's been on a really good run of form, and I have to hand it to Medvedev because he did play so well in the tournaments leading up to the US Open. And then there's always the question of how will he handle best of 5 sets, and he's handled it really well. So I'm not sure if I have the confidence to go with Medvedev. This is a really interesting, I would probably say the most interesting half of any of the draws remaining, because Medvedev, Wawrinka, Roger Federer and Grigor Dimitrov, I could see any of those 4 making the final, but I've got to make a call on this one. I'm going to give Wawrinka the benefit of the doubt, for better or for worse, even though Medvedev has a lot to mix it up in his game that could trouble Wawrinka. If Wawrinka's serving well and lands the first punch, he should really have this under control. So, Wawrinka in... It's going to extend straight sets, I think. So, Wawrinka in 4 or 5. Let's go for Wawrinka in 5 sets, because I have to move on, because I am on a time limit. This is good. This keeps me going. Okay. Third match, this one will take me little time. Serena Williams versus Wang Qiang, so the number 8 seed and many-time former champion at this event, versus the number 18 seed but 0-time champion here in singles. So Serena has dropped 1 set. That was against Katie McNally in the second round. You might remember I mentioned McNally as one to watch in the preview event. I'm really not feeling it today. Preview video I did for the whole tournament. And because she has that game style that's coming back onto the circuit, the ability to come to the net really early, to use the slice, the drop shot to mix things up. She's exciting, McNally, in terms of what she brings to the game, and there are quite a few players like her that are coming through, some of which we've seen face Serena. Starting with Sharapova, that one was very, very, very comprehensive. 6-1, 6-1 for Serena. The hype was not warranted. Sharapova did nothing different to what she's ever done against Serena over the past 2 years. Tried to hit through her from the baseline, didn't work. Came to the net a couple of times and discovered that she still can't play there. So that was that. So 17-year-old Katie McNally gave Serena more of a runaround in the second round. Went down 5-7, 6-3, 6-1. And really, I think Serena did have that more under control than the scoreline lets on, because she faced 1 break point in the whole match. And that came at the back end of the first set. So it was unfortunate timing for her, really. And since then, she hasn't really let up. She's faced 2 more players who like to be more crafty, drop shot, come forwards, in Karolina Muchova, who had a great run at Wimbledon, reached the quarters, and Petra Martic, who I believe did the same. Serena won 6-3, 6-2 and 6-3, 6-4 respectively. Now she comes to Wang Qiang, who's playing a different game style to the 3 players that she's just faced. So it might be something that kind of jars her rhythm and shakes her up a bit. And so there is the potential for a little bit of a scare. So let's have a look at Wang Qiang, or Qiang Wang, however you prefer to say it. I don't think... Here we go. Yeah, so she hasn't dropped a set, which is interesting. But at the same time, she wasn't challenged at all, really, until she faced number 2 seed Ashley Barty in the 4th round. So Caroline Dolehide of America, was her victim in the first round, 6-4, 6-4. Alison von Oakbank, 7-5, 6-4 in the second round. And Fiona Ferro, who's been in some decent form, actually, to be fair, this year, really stepping it up at the outside events. 7-6, 6-3 for Wang in the 3rd round. Then she faced Barty, and Barty, obviously one of the standout players of the season, had a bit of a knock at Wimbledon, going out in the 4th round there, tough draw. And Wang showing some of the form that she brought out at the back end of last year. She was one of the most exciting names of the back end of last season, Wang Qiang. I've watched her for several years. I remember watching her I think in the first round of a WTA main draw on an outside court in Nottingham in 2015. And she has a lovely game to watch because her ground strokes are so slick and so flat, and that leaves little margin for error. But when she nails her marks, she's really quite lethal. And Barty found that out in the fourth round, going down 6-2, 6-4. Wang able to respond to the way that Barty can mix things up and take advantage of openings there. Now she faces a different test in Serena because Serena has a different level of power to Barty. She can wipe Wang off the court. They've never played before. They were scheduled to play one time, and I can't remember who pulled out of the match, but that one didn't go ahead. So this will be a first meeting. Always difficult for Serena, really, to face someone for the first time because Wang will know ample amounts about Serena's game because everyone does. She's all over the place. Serena probably will know a lesser amount about Wang, and then there's the pressure on Serena because at this point in the draw, she's the only Grand Slam champion left. She's won 23 Grand Slams. No one else left in the women's draw has won a single slam. Last time this happened, really, at the US Open was 2015. It seemed open. It seemed like a walkover for Serena to win her last two rounds, win the trophy and win the calendar slam. And she lost a shocker to Roberta Vinci. So these are the moments, and I think it's going to be the same potentially with Roger Federer, where suddenly there's an opportunity and the pressure is more real and the expectation is more real. So I do think there are opportunities for Serena to struggle here, but the fact remains that, you know, at the beginning of the event, I said this is on her racket. If she's focused enough, fit enough, she should get this one. I stand by that. If she's getting first serves in, that will get her out of sticky situations. It'll probably win her a lot of big points. And it's a big situation for Wang, you know, she's got to go out there swinging, play her game, go for slim margin, and I expect her to do that, but it's a match Serena should be winning, so whistling through this one, Serena Williams is my pick to win that in straight sets. Moving on to Roger Federer versus Grigor Dimitrov, who plays quite a bit like Federer, which earned him a nickname a few years back that he wasn't too chuffed with. Federer had an iffy start to the tournament, but has looked in blazing form in the last couple of rounds. So anyone remember Nadal, Summit Nadal, his first opponent, who came out swinging. 22-year-old had never won an ATP level match before, took the first set, and Federer was struggling with the longer rallies there, struggling to finish things off, maintain consistency. But he got his first serve back throughout that match and won 4-6, 6-1, 6-2, 6-4. More of the same against Damir Dzumhur, who was more of a scrappy player, forcing Federer to go for more, to play longer. Federer coming through in 4 again, 3-6, 6-2, 6-3, 6-4. And he really did look quite wobbly in those opening 2 rounds. But at the same time, you never know when Federer is going to pull it together. And he did in the 3rd round. He had some benefits, I feel, against Dan Evans. They've practiced together quite a bit this year. So that was something where Federer had been pushed by him at Australia, in Australia at the Australian Open. But since then, he's played against him a lot, practiced with him a lot, and learned more about his game. Evans, due to rain, had to play a 4-set match, I think, against Luca Pouille the day prior, and therefore didn't have as much recovery time. And I think he felt that against Federer, but still, Federer nailed his marks, dominated off all cylinders, but the backhand and the serve coming forward were particularly impressive. 6-2, 6-2, 6-1. And I still had some concerns about that forehand because he'd been shanking with it quite a bit. I thought if anything's going to be his weakness, it will be the forehand, but no let up in the 4th round. Credit to him. 6-2, 6-2, 6-love over David Goffin, who just never really got going and just looked out of belief and out of resources after the first couple of sets. So another good win for Federer. Grigor Dimitrov is his opponent, and Dimitrov was pretty emotional after his 4th round win. It's been a tough time for Dimitrov since really winning the ATP finals in 2017, not been able to get himself going, nothing much has seemed to work. But he's had a bit of a helping hand getting to this stage. Beat Andrea Seppi in the first round in 4 sets, 6-1, 6-7, 6-4, 6-3. Got a walkover second round over Borna Coric, who is the number 12 seed. I thought that could have been the end of the road for Dimitrov because Coric is He's such a fighter. He's developing his weapons and can play across all surfaces. He was exactly the kind of opponent that could have troubled Dimitrov, with Dimitrov not having enough tennis to play his way into form yet. So I thought that could be tough, but the walkover there for Dimitrov, which led to a straight sets win in the third round, 7-5, 7-6, 6-2, winning a 10-8 tiebreak there. And then his most impressive win to date over Alex de Minaur in the fourth round. De Minaur's been in great form. Obviously, he's really quick around the court, and when he's in position, which is often because he's so fast, his timing is accurate, pinpoint accurate, and he can get really deep, really fast balls. Dimitrov 7-5, 6-3, 6-4. So that's a really good win for Dimitrov, and no wonder he was a little emotional after that. Now, however, he faces Federer, who has beaten him 7 times and lost 0, as far as I remember. Just checking to see if that's correct. It is. 7-love to Federer in the head-to-heads. Federer ranked quite a way above Dimitrov at the moment. He's the only seeded player here. Federer's world number 3, Dimitrov number 78, so quite a way off his career high ranking, which is I think it's even in the top 3. I think he got to world number 3 after he won the ATP finals. Their last meeting actually came last year, Rotterdam final. Federer won 6-2, 6-2. They've played at Grand Slams twice. Wimbledon 2017 and Australian Open 2016. Federer won in straights at Wimbledon and 4 sets at the Australian Open, with a comprehensive 6-1 set in Australia after he'd lost the second set. Federer's won in straight sets on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 occasions. So Federer obviously looks the heavy favourite to come through this, and I would be picking him. Particularly, I really have to give him the benefit of the doubt as far as his last 2 matches go. However, it's the mental pressure now. The moment he sees Novak Djokovic isn't in the draw, it's hard for him not to take notice of that, particularly after such a heartbreaking loss as the Wimbledon final. So it's going to be a mental battle really here for Federer. He's got the game and the game plan at the moment, that steady aggressiveness with the serve and following up to the net to get this done, and to get it done in straight sets, actually. But, there is that mental aspect of things. So I'm going to say Federer to win. I'm going to give Dimitrov a little bit of it's not giving him a chance if I'm picking Federer to win, but I'll give it a bit of leeway. I'll say Federer to win in 4 sets, but really Federer should be coming through this one. So that's the first day of quarterfinals. I've got to rattle through, and second day coming up, starting with, and the schedule's not out yet, so I don't know actually which of these will be first, but we'll keep alternating between men's and women's. Belinda Bencic versus Donna Vekic versus. This should be a good match. That's a really exciting matchup, actually, and it's another one of those ones where I'm kind of seesawing back and forth on who might win. So Bencic is the number 13 seed, Vekic is the number 23 seed, and I think I might get the predictions wrong when it comes to... In Svitolina versus Konta and this one, I think one of them has to be an upset, and I've just remembered that I went with my gut on the Svitolina one, so never mind, rattling on. Okay, so Bencic, who had a really good start to the 2019 season and then dropped a bit during the clay court season, is back. 6-3, 6-2 over Mandy Minella in the first round. Won a battling second round against Elise Cornet, 6-4, 1-6, 6-2. Got a walkover in the third round after Annette Kontaveit pulled out. And then she was up against Naomi Osaka, the top seed. Osaka's always been a good matchup for Bencic. She's beaten her on the last 2 occasions. The reason I thought Bencic was going to win this match was not just because Osaka's never quite looked comfortable in this tournament. I think the win over Goff was deceptive because Goff has been hyped up, and really Osaka's just a way more fully fledged player there. Should have won that one as comprehensively as she did. I think it's been disguised a bit that Osaka's not been feeling quite back yet at this tournament, not ready to defend a title anyway. And Bencic is the woman that beat her at Indian Wells, which was the only other place that Osaka has tried to defend a WTA title. So Bencic winning there, 7-5, 6-4, was confident, was scrambling on the back foot, not giving up on any rally, on any points, and finding her marks when she needed to, just minimalizing the court for Osaka, and impressive from Bencic, but also I think expected from Bencic, because when you've got those wins over Osaka previously, obviously you're going to fancy your chances of getting another one, particularly when the majority of the pressure is on her as world number one and defending champion. So a good win there for Bencic. Her next opponent is Donna Vekic, who has been on the scene for a long time. She first broke the top 100 when she was 16 years old. Has been a fairly consistent presence there ever since, but her ascent has really been a slow one. It's been pretty much always progressive, but very, very slowly, almost painfully slowly. And therefore, at the age of 23, this is her first Grand Slam quarterfinal. And she has the talent to do so much more than this, but there have been various things that she's battled with, and credit to her, she's coming through. So 7-6, 6-3 over Rochelle Hogenkamp in the first round. Kaya Kanepi was her victim in the second round. Kanepi hits a really heavy ball. Potential to be really troublesome here. I believe she beat Simona Halep here previously. And Vekic won that one 7-5, 6-3. Nearly there. Yulia Putintseva, the feisty, scrappy Kazakh, had the potential to be trouble in the third round. Vekic swatted her aside 6-4, 6-1, but the last win was the big one for Vekic. Obviously, fourth round's going to be quite a big mental block for her, really, because she'd never got past the fourth round at a major. Made her run to the Wimbledon fourth round, I believe, last year, but ended there. Julia Gerges, the 26th seed, so Vekic by seeding should have been coming through that match, but Gerges is capable of top 15 level tennis. She's been ranked consistently within that section of numbers. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore, but Gerges had a match point. She had a match point to win in straight sets, and Vekic came back. That is huge for Vekic, because the mentality has been such an issue with her over the years. She has had tendencies to get very negative, very down on herself, but she's always had the game. It's slick. She's got big serve, flat ground strokes, and the drop shot is so overlooked in Vekic's game. She hits a mean drop shot, and she was able to use that to great effect against Gerges, coming back from that match point down to win 6-7, 7-5, 6-3, and now faces Bencic, who is a player she knows well. They've faced off, I believe, 3 times. Yeah, 3 times. The most recent of which was the 2019 French Open, so only a few months ago. Vekic won that one 6-4, 6-1, but the clay court season was a little bit of a dip this year for Bencic. New Haven and Birmingham were their other previous meetings in 2014. Bencic winning both of these 6-4, 6-4 on the grass of Birmingham, 7-6, 6-2 on the hard courts of New Haven. So they have, even though they've only faced off 3 times, they've taken each other on every surface. And notice there that Bencic has been the victor on the faster surfaces. Yes, it was a while ago, but Bencic did crack the top 10 for the first time the year after those meetings, and Vekic was already a solid presence in the top 100. So I don't think it's wrong to take those matches into consideration. In a way, honestly, and I have to keep this short, obviously we have to keep going. In a way, I do think Vekic should be winning this match. I think that once she's fully got consistency there and utter focus, she's going to be a really great player. I think she should be solid top 10, and she's developing the other aspects of her game as well, not just all out power. So, and I am impressed with Vekic in the way she's become such a competitor over the last 12 months. She's had a good step up these last 12 months, and I think a lot of it is due to her mentality. I mean, she was down a set and a break, and even though when I say a set and a break, it sounds like a smaller deficit than it looks on the scoreboard at 3-1, at 4-2 in the second set, and for her to come back from that, I think is a real boost. And honestly, there's an element of me that thinks Vekic should win this match, should be winning it, but Bencic is a real title contender, I would say. I'm still putting Serena up there. Obviously, I mentioned Bianca Andreescu, who's still in my preview video for the tournament, but Bencic kind of ticks the boxes. In great form earlier in the year, but under the radar coming into the event, which is often a thing for the eventual champion when when their name is not Serena Williams. She's been top 10, she's won big titles, she's beaten big names, and really, she's played good strategic tennis throughout this tournament. Also, I think she's been set up well for this match by playing Osaka, who has a big serve, who has slick ground strokes, and who can use the drop shot quite well. I think that's a pretty good preparation for playing Vekic. So I am going to give Bencic the edge on this one, and I'm going to say Belinda Bencic to win in 3 sets in this one. Moving on, quick. Gael Monfils versus Matteo Berrettini. I don't have as much to say about this one, to be honest, so this one will be quicker. I'm not going to milk it out. Monfils, the number 13 seed, Berrettini, the number 24 seed. You might have seen my tweet about Berrettini yesterday. He's more than cut his ranking in half this season, and I think, to be honest, he's been quite overlooked, the Italian. He's only 23, so pretty much just a year older than Alexander Zverev, who's getting a ton of stick for not having broken through at the slams, and all the spotlight is kind of on him and other people around his age. Because Berrettini's a late bloomer, I think people forget that he is actually quite young in comparison to the guys that are doing well at the moment. Monfils is a player who's done well here before. He's had match points over Roger Federer to make the semis and not converted them. He's a bit of a champ at getting close to the win and not quite getting the win, but at the same time, he's so athletic, so able. It's just his consistency and his streakiness that can let him down. So I'm always very skeptic with Monfils, who won his first round in straight sets over Albert Ramos Vinolas, 7-6, 6-4, 6-3. That's a good win. Marius Kopil, big serve, likes to serve and volley. Monfils came through 6-3, 6-2, 6-2 in their second round. Denis I'm going to pronounce it wrong. I call him Denis Shapovalov. He told me it's Denis Shapovalov, but you know, if you're British, you're not going to say it the way the Canadians and Americans say it, right? So I'm sticking with Shapovalov just for the sake of consistency. 6-7, 7-6, 6-4, 6-7, 6-3 for Monfils. So you can see some of those sets were really tight. Shapovalov had looked really good this tournament, had a thumping first win over Felix Auger-Aliassime, finally started to get some momentum going. He's had a bit of a tough past few months. But, you know, that's great for Monfils to be able to come through that one in a fighting 5, and then consolidated that with a straight sets win over Pablo Andujar, 6-1, 6-2, 6-2. Matteo Berrettini, on the other hand, hasn't beaten a seeded player, but he's beaten a former top 10 player in Richard Gasquet, 6-4, 6-3, 2-6, 6-2 in the first round. Also 4 sets in rounds 2 and 3. Jordan Thompson, 7-5, 7-6, 4-6, 6-1. And Alexei Popyrin, 6-4, 6-4, 6-7, 7-6. Popyrin is going to be a bigger name in future. I think the names of Kyrgios and Tomic and that kind of overshadow him because he's still young. He had a great start to the season in Australia, and he's got a really watchable game. So even though Popyrin not seeded, not close to being seeded, I think that's a good win for Berrettini. And then Andrei Rublev seemed to have run out of steam in their 4th round match, which Berrettini won 6-1, 6-4, 7-6. But Rublev made a lot of errors, but it was a great serving display from Berrettini, really strong, very consistent off the ground, and showing the different looks he has in his game. The backhand slice, the drop volleys, able to pull Rublev around and really expose the fact that the Russian was feeling a little fatigue. I think he'd had a great tournament, has had a great last few weeks after not really being on the scene at the beginning of the year. So good win for Berrettini, but there are question marks just because his draw hasn't quite been as challenging as Monfils, I would say, although it's pretty similar. Sense would say to go with Monfils to win this one, because he is the higher seed. He has a vast more amount of Grand Slam experience. And you're looking at a player here who's going to be in a Grand Slam semi-final, which is a big deal, particularly on the men's circuit, where Grand Slam semi-finals are dominated by a select group of players. So it's big stuff, but I am just, maybe this is just me, okay, but I am very skeptical when it comes to Monfils and whether he will sustain form. I think it rings kind of warning bells that he's won 4 matches in a row at a Grand Slam. That says to me that this run might not continue much longer. So I think everyone would love to see a Monfils versus Nadal semi. But I might give Berrettini the benefit of the doubt here just because Monfils is streaky. And while Berrettini is not as flashy as Monfils, you can't deny his rise throughout the season, his consistency, and the solidness of his game. And if he's able to rally consistently, that is something that can trouble Monfils. So I think I'm going to give Berrettini a shot at the upset here and say Berrettini to win in 4 sets. And then we've only got 2 left, and the next one is Bianca Andreescu, the number 15 seed, a champion at 2 premier events this year, including Indian Wells, against Elise Mertens, the number 25 seed who won the Qatar Open earlier this year in February in emphatic fashion. She's been progressing in emphatic fashion, Mertens. I don't think she's dropped a set. Let me check. She has not. Beat Jill Teichmann 6-2, 6-2 in the first round. Teichmann's really been stepping it up at the lowest level events on tour, but not enough against Mertens. Kristina Pliskova 6-2, 6-2 in the second round, and Andrea Petkovic 6-3, 6-3 in the third round. Petkovic had taken out Kvitova, always difficult to back up those big wins, and Mertens digging in there. Christy Arn was her victim in the fourth round, 6-1, 6-1. So very comprehensive. Arn had been making a surprise breakout run here, so Mertens was able to display her greater experience and just kind of pull her around, I guess. But you look at that and it's been a straightforward run for Mertens, but also really, honestly, quite a straightforward list of opponents when we're looking at the fact that it is a Grand Slam. You don't, as the 25 seed, you don't usually get to the quarters having had that kind of a draw. I'm not saying it's easy, because no Grand Slam match is easy and every player will tell you that, but it certainly could have been more difficult, is my assessment. But then again, you can only beat what's in front of you, and you can't argue that she has not been dominant, because she has. Andreescu, meanwhile, has taken out a seed and a very informed player in the third round and fourth round, but starting at the beginning, I think it's Katie Volinets from the United States that she beat in the first round, who was a junior player not too long ago. I'm not sure if that's still the case, but 6-2, 6-4, comprehensive for Andreescu, getting her going. It's been a long time since she's actually lost a match that she hasn't retired in, and that's largely due to the fact that she's either won an event or needed to take a break, or she's been injured and hasn't been able to play. So 6-2, 6-4 in the first round, 6-3, 7-5 over Kirsten Flipkens in the second round. That's a good win. Flipkens is one of those unconventional, tricky players, slices the majority of the time, isn't straightforward, doesn't give you a rhythm. And Andreescu is one of those players herself, that's why she's so good. She's so sharp, anticipates so well, drop shots, volleys, lobs, and then hits a great power shot as well. She's got it all, Andreescu, and this season she's had the confidence and the consistency. It's been going well for her since January when she's not been injured, so I'm not surprised to see her here at all. And I'm not surprised that she beat Caroline Wozniacki comprehensively in the third round, 6-4, 6-4. Wozniacki, the number 19 seed, a former finalist here. But, when Andreescu's on song, she is one of the very best on tour right now. Taylor Townsend, honestly, I think was probably her toughest opponent of the tournament so far. Townsend, we saw the brutal way she got rid of Simona Halep from the competition. Serve and volley after serve and volley, net approach after net approach. Being a virtual brick wall, but not just closing in, doing well when she was there, dropping drop volleys. Well worded, Abigail. Digging deep, she's got great hands at the net and great craft around the court, and you look at that and you think, oh, she won in 3 sets over a player ranked outside the top 100. Townsend's been playing top 20 quality tennis here, so that's a great win, I think. 6-1, 4-6, 6-2. So that's Andreescu and Mertens, who have not faced off before, because this time last year, pretty much, Andreescu was still competing at ITFs. It's been a meteoric rise for Andreescu, but one that she's completely taken in her stride. She's oozing confidence, and I think that's amazing. So I'm not going to beat around the bush. I think Andreescu is going to win this, as I thought she was go deep at the outset of the tournament. And I've barely watched Mertens this tournament, so it's difficult to say how difficult that's going to be for Andreescu, but I'm going to say Andreescu to win in straight sets. And there is a bit more pressure on her now with the way her half of the draw has completely opened up. She's pretty much the favourite to go through and actually make the final. But, you know, I think that Andreescu might have this in the bag. So Andreescu to win that one in straight sets. And on to the last one, which is Rafael Nadal versus Diego Schwartzman. Nadal, the number 2 seed, and Schwartzman, the number 20 seed. And I did have to feel for Schwartzman after he got a great win over Alexander Zverev yesterday, was told by Brad Gilbert, who was doing the encore interviews, that he faced the winner of Nadal and Cilic, and he threw back his head and he said, I thought it was Berrettini because it came up on the screen. It was so genuine, the reaction. And their hopes for him having a chance against Nadal might have diminished after that reaction, but you know, that's the natural way. You know, you don't want to play one of the big 3 in the quarterfinals when you've just taken out one of the top seeds. It's not ideal. So poor Schwartzman, but it is what it is. Schwartzman, no, let's start with Nadal actually. Nadal has only dropped 1 set, but he's only played 3 matches. He should have been playing Thanasi Kokkinakis in the second round, but Kokkinakis always injured, forever injured, perpetually injured, and he was forced to pull out again, poor guy. But Nadal moved through that one. That was after a first round win over John Millman, who took Roger Federer out of this tournament last year. 6-3, 6-2, 6-2 for Millman, for Nadal over Millman even. I'm nearly there. I am nearly there. There's less opportunity to mess up. Millman's a real fighter. He has been having some awful draws as well. I feel really bad for him. Always drawing big names in the first or second round of majors at the moment. But Nadal, even though he didn't play his most clinical tennis in that match, still able to come through in comprehensive straights. That was definitely a boost for him. Hyun Chung, former Grand Slam semi-finalist, we know what he's capable of. Hasn't shown much of it recently, but did enough to get to round 3. Nadal won 6-3, 6-4, 6-2. Then his most recent match, he dropped a set against the 2014 champion Marin Cilic. Cilic's backhand, when it's on song, is a thing of brutality. It pretty much earned him the win here in 2014. And he was going to be tough. He's a big server consistently across years. Nadal has struggled with big servers, and he's been taking steps to deal with that. But, you know, Cilic had him pretty much right against the back wall during that second set, waiting to return, because that was the kind of pressure he was applying. But Nadal, you know, after he dropped that second set, he really ramped it up. 6-3, 3-6, 6-1, 6-2 for the Spaniard. Schwartzman, therefore, has spent a little bit more time on court, but actually his match against Zverev, that was the first match where he dropped a set, and he's played 4 matches. Robin Haas was his victim in the first round, 6-3, 7-6, 6-love. And then Gerasimov in the second round, 6-4, 6-2, 6-love. So 2 bagel sets already, and then a breadstick in the third round where he beat Tennis Sandgren, who came from 2 sets to love down to beat Joe Wilfred Tsonga in round 1, 6-4, 6-1, 6-3. And then the win over Alexander Zverev, who was having a bit of a mare, couldn't get a first serve in. That rattled him. He was frustrated. He was making errors. But the most important thing is Schwartzman's return game was on point. He was using all areas of the court. He was rallying consistently. He was doing what Schwartzman does, and he was doing it effectively. 3-6, 6-2, 6-4, 6-3. So the question is, does Schwartzman have the energy to take out Nadal? I think he has the energy to hang with him. He's not expended too much energy during the tournament. Schwartzman is a player that Nadal knows well on and off the court, and he's also a player that Nadal has dominated. 7-love, very similar to the Federer-Dimitrov head-to-head. The last meeting came in Indian Wells this year. Nadal won comprehensively 6-3, 6-1. They've actually played 3 times at 3 times at majors: 2018 Roland Garros, 2018 Australian Open, 2015 US Open. Nadal's won the last 2 meetings at Slams in 4 sets. That was the 2018 Roland Garros and 2018 Australian Open. Their only previous US Open meeting in 2015, Nadal won in straights 7-6, 6-3, 7-5. Other than that, the other meetings have been won in straight sets by Nadal. So, I mean, this is on Nadal's racket. Obviously, Schwartzman is so small and has to be really quick on the back foot to make up for that, has to be sharp on the return. With the way Nadal's firing in his first serve and looking to be so aggressive at the moment, he's not going to really allow Schwartzman to play his game. And if he's not finding his first serve, Nadal, then there is the opportunity for Schwartzman to play in a different manner to what he has been for most of the season, which could be something that throws Nadal. But honestly, you know, it's a player Nadal knows well. He'll know what to expect. And basically, if Nadal brings his A game, he wins. So to wrap this up very quickly, Rafael Nadal to win this one in straight sets. Sorry, Schwartzman. If you win now, all credit to you. But yes, we wrap up. Sorry, I've just not been feeling myself 100% today. I'm not sure why, whether it's lack of sleep or something I've eaten or both. But hopefully we'll shake that off, and then I'll be back to do a preview and predictions video for the semi-final. So let me know what you thought of this video and these predictions, whether you agree, whether you disagree. There are some players that I've analysed that I've watched a heck of a lot more than I've watched others this tournament. There are things I need to get on top of, but we're at the quarters, and hopefully this will allow me to take a good look at each of the remaining players. So let me know who you think will come through. I'm not 100% confident in a lot of my predictions here. Well, I say a lot, actually, a handful. 1 or 2, maybe 3. But, you know, it is what it is. It's a guessing game at the end of the day, and anything could happen to change the complexion of a match, the conditions, you know, the weather, what time of day it is, all these kind of things can have an impact. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's been, I think, a really engaging tournament. There've been upsets, but also players being really strong and backing up upsets as well. I think that the openness of both draws, it's open to an extent, but also there are players that have been asserting themselves throughout the year that are still in the mix. And I think it's been, yeah, a great tournament, and looking forward to seeing what goes down in the quarters. So thank you for watching. Hopefully I'm in a better frame of mind and just feeling better, full stop, next time I'm here. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you at the next video.